What's up, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the overall market. I'm also going to talk about why the market is dumping right now as we got a hot CPI, and we have more catalysts ahead that could cause an even bigger move. But just know that I'm not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. Deposit $100 and you'll get 5 free stocks. Deposit $2,000 and you're guaranteed 30 of them. Anyways, so for the markets, looking at SPY, we had this trend line of resistance. We rejected here, bounced, rejected, bounced, rejected. We were trying to break it. It looked like it really wanted to break it yesterday. And then we got CPI. And instead of getting a good number, the market got a big dump as a result of the hot report. So specifically, let's look at the numbers right over here. We're going to start off with this. Core CPI month over month is at 0.4%. That is above expectations of 0.3% and an increase compared to before. Core CPI year over year is at 3.3% above all expectations and another increase compared to before. Same thing with inflation for all items month over month. It's at 0.5% above all expectations and another increase compared to before. And then last but not least, for all items, CPI year over year is at 3% above every expectation and before. When you zoom in, this is what the chart looks like for CPI. So the blue line is all items. It's been going up and up and up and up to 3%. So CPI is on a run right now, which is not the best of news for the Fed. All items without food and energy are also starting to increase again. So we're seeing prices going up for just January of 2025. On top of this, I want to mention that this is just not the best for the Fed. The Fed is now in a very, very critical place where they may have to keep rates higher for longer, and there may be some concerns that start emerging amongst investors, especially as sentiment starts to shift. So please keep that in mind. The market's dumping as a result of this so far, and it's going to likely continue to dump. We have the big guy, Jerome Powell, who's going to be giving another speech today and speaking in front of the U.S.'s House of Representatives. He's going to be giving a speech, and he's also going to be answering a lot of questions. So just keep in mind that at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, this is going to be 30 minutes after the stock market opens today, Powell is going to be giving his testimony in front of the House. Now, these congressional members may start to hammer at him. They may ask him, what's happening? CPI is going up. What are you going to do? They're going to start, inciting fear about the tariffs. It's going to be very political and maybe kind of messy because, inflation just went up. If Jerome Powell keeps trying to say we're not in a recession, everything's okay, these politicians may start to fight with him because, they have a nice argument they can make against him. So you have to be very careful with everything that's going on. So Jerome Powell's going to speak. Okay, he's going to answer a lot of questions. We'll see if he says anything. Does he say anything about the economy? Does he say anything about interest rates or this inflationary report? Or does he just stay quiet? Keep in mind, guys, inflation's back to 3%. It's not at the 2% target the Fed is looking for, and it's continuing to show signs of increasing. All right. And this is also happening before this important news. So with Jerome Powell, Jerome Powell speaking, he's also going to be asked about tariffs. He may not want to comment on it, but things are still very complicated. Donald Trump said on Monday that he's going to be announcing reciprocal tariffs likely on Tuesday or Wednesday. Today's Wednesday. Yesterday, he did not make any announcements about new tariffs, but as you guys know, today is Wednesday and he might do it. He might be announcing new tariffs. It could be on Japan, South Korea, could be on India, could be on the EU. The EU have stated that if Donald Trump increases tariffs on them, they're going to retaliate and they're going to increase tariffs back on the US already. So very complicated stuff. It also makes things complicated considering that inflation is already going up so much. And, if Trump does start to impose more tariffs on more countries, for the short term, we're going to likely see this continue. The trend's going to likely continue. That could lead to some fears for the markets as prices will continue to go up. So I'm just talking about the short term. I know in the long term, people may think that it's worth it. Maybe people don't think that. It's up to you guys to decide. I'm just here to tell you that this is the honest truth, right? The short term, there are inflationary risks, especially if we see tariffs continuing to go up. That's just a short term disruption I'm talking about. So for now, I want you guys to keep in mind that SPY has support around that 590, 597 area. That's going to be our 200 EMA. If that fails us, I don't think we're going to stop at 594. I think we go back down to 590 because this is looking kind of aggressive. And then when you go to the daily chart, we have to hold 590. If we don't hold 590, there's a giant gap down here to fill, right? We have this big gap. I'm sure you guys can see it. Let me just zoom in to show you guys. There's a giant gap that's unfilled at 584. So there's going to be a risk of us dumping another 14 points. And if Donald Trump announces the tariffs, we might come down to fill this gap. That could be the next catalyst. For now, I think SPY is going to dip, so we get ready for it to hit the mid 590s, if not the low 590s. And then we have that gap below, so just keep that in mind. For the QQQ, what I think is going to happen is we have resistance on 524. We'll see if we retest like 522, 523 before we continue to dip. Jerome Powell may affect this temporarily, but I think there's going to be a risk of us returning to 518. If that fails us, we're going to be at risk of returning to these lows. So 518 does not hold. And if the tariffs are announced, we're looking for like 507 as our next potential target for a big dump. The Russell hit 220, bounced a little bit. Now it may continue to retest that. Still looking kind of weak here. We'll see how if the tariffs come out. That may cause small caps to dip more, which could drag the Russell lower. Notice on ES, we got a perfect rejection. We hit the trend line, rejected, rejected, rejected. We were really trying to push again yesterday. We wanted to break the trend line. And I said to wait and see if we break it or not. And instead, we got this rejection. I expect 6,000 to be retested. If it doesn't hold us, we easily go down to 59.80. So be careful, guys. There's a risk of more downside on ES for the short term. And then we'll see what Jerome Powell and then Donald Trump cause once he makes his tariff announcements. That's going to be another big catalyst on top of CPI. NQ, rejection, 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 rejection. We'll have to see if we hold 21,580. If not, we could be dumping to 21,420. Eventually, the lower 21,000s, there's going to be a risk of that downside. Bitcoin's dipping here. We're looking for 94,000. 94,000 flat is the target. This is where the support is. If that fails, we're going to be at risk of 92,500. So keep that in mind. Nvidia is dipping here. We're going to be retesting 128. If it does not hold us, we could be dipping to 125 again. We need to break 133 to turn back up. This is going to likely dip a little bit more to 128 or below before we see some kind of bounce later on. Tesla is losing 330, so this is going to likely continue to dip, and it could be revisiting, the lower 320s again. Keep in mind that Tesla came down to fill this gap on the daily already around like 320. We saw some buyers defend it from there, so there's a strong support there, but there's going to be a risk of us returning to 320 and eventually 310. Those are going to be our two main supports, followed by the 200 EMA 299. So keep in mind Tesla may dip a bit more, maybe not as hard as yesterday, but it still has a risk. For Apple, we have resistance at 233. If we don't hold above that, we could be dipping back down to about 226 or so. So 226 should be watched. We're in a range between 236 and 226, but I do think 226 could be retested if we don't hold 230. For Coinbase, we're on a bit of a downtrend. We're going to be looking to see if 262 holds. If not, 260 is likely coming, then 256 for more downside targets. For Amazon, we're dipping here. We have to see if we can reclaim 231. Otherwise, we could be dipping to about 228 or below as well. So watch and see. For Meta has 712 as our support. If that doesn't hold us, we're going to be dipping to about the lower 700s. So keep that in mind. 700 could be retested. Microsoft is losing 408. We're looking for 405 as our target. If new tariffs are announced, this could dump even more and revisit. We have a perfect kind of like head and shoulders here. We could be coming back down to this low at 404 if we continue to dump. Google's looking bearish for 183 as a potential target. Like I said before, guys, the bears are back. The bears now have an edge with all this news that's coming out. So with that being said, with the way the market is moving, I do want to urge everyone to be very, very cautious about what's about to come. We're waiting to see what Jerome Powell is going to be saying. I don't think that he could really save things, at least that soon. And we'll be listening to see what he has to say about inflation. There's going to be a lot of politicians that hammer at him. Yesterday, he was just trying to avoid questions. He was being very, very careful. So we'll see if he does the same thing or not, but it might not be enough to save the markets, considering that there's a lot of fear about inflation. Just keep that in mind, okay? So we'll see what Jerome Powell ends up saying. Make sure you guys are very much just ready for a possibility of higher volatility. And if he doesn't cause like a big bounce or anything like that, and if the market is just hovering at the levels we're at, we have to be very careful, because then Donald Trump may come out and he may start announcing these tariffs any moment now, right? I've been warning you guys about this all week long. we're still waiting for the announcement. And if he does announce tariffs on Japan, South Korea, Germany, the EU especially, it's going to be big. It's going to cause a big move. And I'm just here to give you guys a heads up about this. I don't think anyone's really talking about this as much as I am. I'm just letting you guys know soon something's going to come, and it's going to cause even more downside for the markets, at least just temporarily. Okay, so get ready, guys. A big move is likely coming soon. Be patient, be strong, and don't chase. Hunt for opportunities. Do not chase. That's one of the most important lessons I learned from trading. And be patient. So get ready for a big move, guys. Thank you for listening. I'll see you guys very soon in the next one. Have a good day and peace out.